So it is finally here. Loopy 2.0 is officially being released on the 11th of July in a couple of days. And today in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at 22 new features coming to Loopy 2.0. So stick around. On the next one. Yes. So here it is. This is Loopy 2.0. This is a template that I've just set up for today's video so that I can showcase some of the different features in Loopy 2.0. A huge shout out to Michael and all the developers working on Loopy 2.0. I know they've worked really hard, and I know that some of these features are really going to change the way we loop live. So let's jump straight into it with feature number 1. By the way, if you don't already own Loopy Pro, there's a link down in the description below where you can get 10% off your purchase. So first up, we've got the big one, and this is MIDI clips and MIDI loops. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using a drum pad that I've just got. This is the Nord Drum 3P, and I've got it set up to send MIDI from the drum pad into Loopy Pro. It's then going to record all 6 of those pads on their own MIDI loop. I've got it set so it'll only accept the note from each individual pad. And then I can use the quantize features to just tighten up my playing. It allows me then to send that MIDI straight back into the Nord drum engine. And I can bring individual elements in, like the kick, the snare, the hi-hat. I can build scenes, that kind of thing. Let me try and demonstrate for you how useful this is for me. So just to my right here, we've got the Nord drum. And on the left-hand side of my template here, you can see that I've got pad 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I don't think you can see the numbers, they're a little bit small, but that's the 6 pads from my drum pad. And I'm just going to record a 1-bar loop and then show you that I can bring the individual elements in and out. And let's just record a 1-bar loop. And because it's set to auto overdub, I can layer up on top of that. When I'm finished, I just stop the recording across all 6 clips. And I can then bring in, or take out any elements I want. So if I just want to go down to a snare, we'll be down to just a snare. Bring the hi-hats back in. Or all in. The only thing missing now is my drumming skills. Okay, feature number 2, and that is MIDI one-shots. If we head over to the pencil icon, as well as an audio one-shot, you can have a MIDI one-shot. Now I've got one MIDI one-shot set up in the bottom left-hand corner here, and I've just drawn in a C major chord inside the MIDI editor. I'll show you that shortly. And this just allows me to press a single MIDI one-shot and send that information to any synth I want. In this case, I've got the Animoog Z set up, and if I press this button, you'll hear a C major chord. And with this MIDI one-shot, you can simply play in a pattern. You could set up a whole bunch of chords, and then you can send that MIDI data into a larger MIDI clip, which could record all of that MIDI information as well. So a really clever way of using MIDI inside Loopy, and something I'm sure people are going to get very creative using. Next up, we've got polyphonic clip playback. So to try and demonstrate this, I'm going to record an audio one-shot and then use a MIDI keyboard to trigger that one-shot multiple times at the same time, so we get polyphonic playback, not just a single mono instance of that audio clip. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me try and demonstrate to make it a bit clearer. So we've got this little audio one shot here, and I'm just going to sing. I'm just going to kind of slide into a C, record that, and then hopefully play that on a keyboard. Let's just edit that a second so that we don't get the long tail at the end. We don't need that. And now the cool thing is, if I open up this little on-screen keyboard, this is another new feature, but I'll get to that in a moment. I can now play that sample using the keyboard. And the cool thing is, you can play individual notes just like you always could, but if I play a chord, it will add polyphonic clip playback there, or if you play really quick, it'll keep playing that individual sound. Quite hard to play on the screen here, but that gives you the idea of polyphonic clip playback. So feature number 4, another big one. This is the MIDI sequencer built into Loopy 2.0. On screen here, you can see a little MIDI sequencer section that I've got set up just to demonstrate. If I swipe up on this clip and go into the editor, let's make it full screen, you can see you've got your typical MIDI editor like you're used to seeing in a DAW. You've got the piano roll down the left-hand side, and say with like an Apple Pencil, if you want to, you can draw in different MIDI notes. You've got this little section in the middle here where you can toggle, or in the bottom left-hand corner, I should say, you can toggle between drawing in notes using the pencil. You've got like a selection tool, or a lasso tool, I think it might be called, where you can adjust the velocity, copy, delete, or cut these notes. And then if you just want to move around, you can select this different one here. You can loop that back. You can change the loop length at the top here. And then you can go in and adjust all your quantize settings from the MIDI sequencer here. A really useful addition to Loopy. Now, feature number 5 is MIDI automation. Now, this is a really cool feature. It's going to bring loads of flexibility to your templates. And I'm sure there are people out there that are going to create some really weird, wacky, and out there templates that can do all kinds of stuff. But for me, it's been a little bit confusing trying to get my head around it. Let me try and demonstrate what I've managed to figure out so far. So if we look over at this record MIDI automation section I've set up in my template, I've got a clip which is connected to an XY pad. Now that XY pad is going to adjust a dry wet from a reverb and then the frequency band on a band pass. So 2 different plugins. Let me just show you those. So we've got like just a typical reverb dry wet mix, and then on the band pass it's just going to kind of sweep through the different frequencies. So let's quickly record a 1-bar loop from the guitar into this MIDI automation clip. And if I play with the XY pad, you can hear the frequency sweep or the reverb mix there. Now that's just a typical XY pad as it always was in Loopy, but what we can do is record that automation to MIDI clips themselves, and then maybe we can have different automations on different clips, trigger them at different moments. So if I press play and then record the automation, you'll see it reading that automation now. I can record a different clip. And we could toggle between the two. So this is the first automation I set up. I see it moving on screen. Toggle the next one. So the way I've gone about setting this up for anyone interested, if I go into the canvas editor and bring up that XY pad, 2 things are happening. On the X value, I'm adjusting the reverb dry wet mix, just like you would set up normally. I'm doing an adjust bandpass Q on the Y value change. This probably needs a separate video to go into more depth, but at the same time, I'm sending CC data to, I've called it recorded automation color. You can call the colors whatever you want. That's what I've called it there. So CC0 and CC1. And then at the same time as that happening, you need to go into control settings. So control settings, and then under the project profiles, I have binded CC0 and CC1 to those same 2 features that are on the 2 different plugins. So like I said, it's a bit complicated and it's quite hard to get your head around. It certainly was for me. I'm still learning how this all works, but I can already see the possibility of where this can go using MIDI automation. If you're enjoying this video, please take a second to hit that like button. It's much appreciated. Feature number 6 is bus to bus routing. Now this is going to open up a load more flexibility for your templates and different workflows. So you can see here on my mixer on the right hand side, I've got bus A, and that's just got a reverb on it right now. But the cool thing is at the bottom of this channel now, I can send bus A to bus B as much as I want. Now in my mind, I've got a cool idea of using this to create some kind of guitar signal path, a bit like you might have on a Helix, where it goes down a signal chain. So on, say, bus A, I might have 3 different distortion pedals. On bus B, I might have 3 different reverbs. On bus C, 3 different delays. And then get each bus to send straight to the next one, 100%. And then use widgets to trigger different combinations of these plugins so that we can have maybe a particular distortion, reverb, and delay on preset 1, and then preset 2 is a different distortion, reverb, and delay. Kind of a workaround to make Loopy Pro work a bit more like a traditional modeler would, but we'll see. I'm going to experiment with that in the future. Feature number 7, this is beat quantization and record quantization. If we just go into the general clip settings right now, under playback settings, there is a beat quantization setting. And right now you can see I've got it set to 16th notes on the MIDI only. And I like the intensity at about 50% so that it doesn't get too robotic, but it just nudges things back in. You can mess around with 8ths, 16ths, triplets, intensity, swing, randomness, and all of this is applied to the clip after you've recorded it, which is really cool. You can keep the original performance and only add quantization to the playback. You've also got the same options with MIDI recording quantization, but this just is a destructive way of adding quantization, which is perfectly legitimate and pretty much what I've always done using a DAW. But I quite like this idea of playback quantization, so that if I end up over quantizing something and I want that original fill back, I've still got the option to do so. Feature number 8, this is collapsible rows. So now in the mixer of Loopy, you've got along the top here all of these different sections. You've got MIDI, MIDI colors, plugins, audio units, colors, and buses. And there's this little toggle circle that you can press to collapse a certain section of the mixer. Now this is really useful because with loads of colors and all kinds of stuff, it gets pretty overwhelming in this mixer, quite a lot on screen. If you just want to tidy things up, you can collapse everything and then just open what you need when you need it. So I could bring just the plugins back, or I could bring in all those MIDI colors. A really nice, clean way of organizing your mixer. Feature number 9 is another mixer update, and this is now the sources section to the mixer. This just allows you to add whatever sources you like to any channel. So if we click on pad 1 here, we can see all my different sources that could feed this channel. We've got different instances of MIDI coming in from my audio interface, or load of different options here, but it's really handy to have this source option now in the mixer. Feature number 10 are dockable windows. So if I open this MIDI sequencer, you can see now at the bottom of my screen, the window for that MIDI sequence is docked to the bottom. So the whole of Loopy Pro is adjusted, but I've still got this docked at the bottom here. Now, if I don't want that, I can press this little icon in the far left hand side. It looks like a little window icon. If I press that, we now have it completely floating, and we can return that to the bottom here. If we were to go in and edit one of the individual widgets, it docks to the right hand side here, and again we can stretch it out, and it keeps things nice and clean. You can also dock the plugin windows, such as if I open this reverb, you can see at the moment it's just a floating window, but if this was a plugin that I used all the time, I could dock that, and you get the choice: panel left, panel right, or panel on the bottom. So let's click the bottom, and we've got this reverb now always living as a section of my screen on my iPad. Feature number 11 is the ability to add on-screen keyboards. This is really handy if you haven't got access to a MIDI keyboard, or maybe you're working away remotely but you still want to record some MIDI information. To do that, you can go into the mixer, press the plus icon in the bottom right hand corner, add MIDI, and now you can see this keyboard option. Now I won't click it now, because if I scroll to the left hand side, you can see that I've got keyboard A, B, C and D already set up. And then you can open these keyboards, and they're docked to the bottom, and use them. And this is still tied to my vocal sample from earlier. It's a really nice and easy way of adding MIDI information into your clips. Feature number 12 is a new widget. If we head over to the widget section, in the middle here, you can now see we have a rotary encoder. You can see one set up on my screen here. And this works really well with like an endless rotary encoder maybe on your MIDI controller, and it allows you to have like a continuous adjustment of a parameter, and there's going to be loads of really good uses for this new widget. Feature number 13 isn't quite as exciting as some of the other features in Loopy 2.0, but for me it's actually extremely useful, and that is like the improved scaling of multiple widgets. So say you're building this complicated template or you've got loads going on, I can kind of highlight a bunch of different items and then I can scale them all together, and this just allows me to move things around, make them bigger, smaller, a lot easier, and it's way more useful when you're building templates. Feature number 14 is now the possibility to assign specific settings to clips using an action such as a button or a widget. So here on the setting assign section of my template, I've got it set up just to demonstrate one example. This isn't particularly inspiring, but it gives you the idea. You can go in and change so many more settings now. You can get even more creative with what's possible. So let's just press play on that drum loop for a second. And if I record in here, the default setting of the clip that I just recorded to is set to overdub as soon as it's finished recording. But if I press the button to the right, it will assign playback after I've finished the first loop instead of overdubbing. So let's click that now. Let's delete that clip and then record something again. So now that clip just plays back and doesn't overdub. If I go back and assign the setting of overdub after recording, it will now do as it's supposed to, should overdub. So feature number 15 is the new clip offset action. This allows you to offset the playback of a clip, and you can adjust it in a few different ways using a button, which will trigger it to playback from wherever you press that button from the start of that clip, or you can use like a slider to kind of just nudge things in and out of where it started. Let me try and demonstrate. So let's press play on that drum loop and record a little 1-bar loop. So if I now press the offset clip button, wherever I press that button, it will play back from. I can also use this offset slider to nudge the clip. Now, I haven't actually found a great way of using this yet musically. I'm sure there are going to be some cool applications. I can see it maybe being useful for maybe recording in a snare and then just nudging it so it's a little bit late to give you that lazy feel. But anyway, that's the offset clip action in Loopy 2.0. Feature number 16. This is the next empty clip action, which is going to be very useful for controlling complicated loop layering. So on screen here, I've got record next clip in the guitar group. So what this will do is, as the drum loop is playing, it's going to record the first available loop in that guitar group. Now the guitar group is this kind of purple color here. You can see guitar pad, guitar funk, and guitar lead. So let's turn on that drum loop. And if we press this button, it should toggle the record of the first loop here. 3, 4. And if on the next one, here we go. And next one. Just toggle through each guitar loop that is available as long as it's empty, and you can set this up in your usual way using actions from the Canvas editor. Feature number 17 are the improved options for radio buttons and radio dials. So one example of this, on screen, you've got this radio dial here. And if I go in to edit that, you can now see, let's get rid of it for a minute. You've got your typical radio dial where you can add actions to any of the items on that list. But if you look at this item source, you can get Loopy to pull the information from your plugins and then add them automatically. It could save you a whole bunch of time. This is just one of the new features here. There's many more, but it's the only one I've had time to think about. So on item source, let's say I want to select effect presets. And let's click on this Bleach Shimmer, for example. And then under the list, it's already found all of the presets available from the Bleach Shimmer. So now I could get rid of any of those if I don't want certain presets, but let's just say I want most of them and then add that as it is. You can see it's now added all, let's just close that. It's added all of these different presets now automatically so that I can go through, listen to those presets and adjust them as I go. Feature number 18, and this is overdub auto count out. So I've been using auto count out on all of my clips all the time, which is after it's recorded the length I want. So I always use this system where I select a bar length. You can see me moving it on screen here. So at any point I can change the length of any of my clips that's about to record next. So if I want a 1 bar phrase, a 2 bar phrase, I can easily do that. But if I was to overdub something, it meant that after it's finished recording, it goes into the overdub phase, but I would have to turn that overdub off. I can now set it so that it will overdub count out, meaning that I can maybe know that a certain clip I want to record one part, immediately record another part on top, and then count me out immediately after that. So this can be found under clip settings. You can obviously do this on an individual clip layer as well, but under recording settings, you can see this overdub count in and out setting where you can turn it on and you can customize separate settings for the count out, just like you can for the count out of the non-overdub. If that makes any sense at all, then give me a like, but probably doesn't. Anyway, moving on. Feature 19, this is the ability to append one clip to another. So I'll record one loop and another loop, and then by pressing a widget, I can kind of put both of those loops as one. So let's press play on that drum loop and loop 1, loop 2. So I've got 2 loops now. If I press append, it will combine the 2 of them into 1 loop. So now if I press play, feature number 20 is the ability to use text and tag it to different widgets so that when you move that widget, the text goes with it. This is really nice to label things and give people tutorials using templates inside Loopy. To do so, you can head over, press the A icon to create some new text, and let's just call this test. You can change the size as you always could, and you can see test here in the middle of the screen. And now as I move it around, you can see all the different widgets give me the option to kind of connect them. So say I wanted it over the append button, I could do that. And now if I ever move this widget, the text goes with it. This is going to clean up a lot of the templates that I make. So I'm actually really buzzing about this feature. Feature 21, this isn't strictly a feature, but it's what's possible now with MIDI loops. And that is using MIDI loops when they're playing to audition different presets. This could be guitar presets you could record in a loop and then tweak away. In my case, maybe we've got this drum beat and then I can cycle through the different presets on the Nord Drum 3P. For example, if I press play, and then I can change kit. When you find one you like, you can have a little jam. finally, feature number 22. This is MIDI destination switching. Doesn't sound that exciting, but it's actually really useful. If you've got, say, one MIDI keyboard and you want to control loads of different synthesizers or plugins or AUV3s, however you want to think about them, you don't want them all on at the same time. So this new feature in Loopy gives you the ability to have, say, one keyboard. This is an on-screen keyboard again. And right now, it's only triggering Animoog Z. I can press the monolith, this middle widget here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll zoom in. And it's now going to the monolith. And if I click King of FM, which is a bit too loud, it selects that one. So let me just show you that on the keyboard D here on the mixer. You can see under destinations, you can see Animoog, Blease, and the King of FM. And whenever I select any one of these, so if I select the monolith, go back and have a look, only the Blease is highlighted here. Now to do that, under the widget, you can set a function of enable/disable MIDI destination. You can choose your target. You've got to choose the keyboard. And then on that keyboard, you can see the things you've got there. And the cool thing is you can use this feature called switch. And that, when you select it, doesn't just select that one, it also mutes all of the other destinations. So a really, really useful way of keeping control of all of your different synths using just one MIDI keyboard. Now, if you'd like to download this template, have a little nose around at some of the settings that I've used to make some of this happen, there's also another link down in the description. So there you have it. There's 22 new features coming to Loopy 2.0. Let me know down in the comments below your favorite features and the ones that potentially you're most excited about using in your templates. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you could hit that like button and consider subscribing for more Loopy Pro content, that would be ideal. Otherwise, I'll see you again. Cheers.